rising, grand evening, whatever time it is for you. So I have a poetic transmission today as well as a few channeled messages. But first and foremost, I want to share that I attempted to record this video 7 times yesterday. On the 7th attempt, I realized and recognized that I was being guided to sit with the message a bit longer and wait until today to record it. And so that's what I did. There were so many external distractions. I'm talking leaf blowers, lawn mowers, neighbors, trash dumpster trucks, all types of things. A lot of noise in my environment. So I did postpone this message until today. I want to start with the poetic transmission, and then I will take you through some channeled messages that I received. I wrote this poetic transmission Monday evening, attempted to share it with you all yesterday, but as fate would have it, I'm sharing it now. You are a beacon of light, filled to the brim with sacred insight. Abundance and freedom exudes from you. As you flow, crumble, regenerate view. An eye in the sky envelops your gaze, and truth coats every word that you say. Your unfettered cadence, integrated plight, mages in silver cages, but you burned too bright. Oh, apex, now they're burned by the sun. A pile of ashes replace silver tongues. Minus, blindness to 0 degree, but that only revealed infinity. And now we fall, free fall, and on our way up, assessing, digressing what's in poison cups, rejecting, bloodletting what is unaligned. Invaluable is our attention and time. Tiptoeing on red strings, a fragile line, the something within nothing that's been realized. Blueprints for the sleeping, roadmaps for the blind that will weather from use, all in divine time. I do hope that you enjoyed that, and I hope that you can pull some positive affirmations from that collective poetic transmission. Now, on to my channeled messages. Normally, when I channel messages, it'll be like a message, right? And I will meditate on it and sit with it until it comes to completion, and then I will record like a 20 to 30 minute video sharing that message. But these messages came in just fragments. I do believe that they are all interconnected, but they came in like sentences, and then a phrase, and then a small paragraph. So I'm going to share each one of these channeled messages with you, and then I'm going to open up this safe container for us to explore these messages. So the first message that I received was, they calculate in the shadows while you calculate in the light. Now what I pull from that is there is an axis and a polarity to everything. For example, aid can be used to heal or to harm. Someone can weaponize love. Help can become a weapon. Calculating and recognizing and assessing can become a weapon, depending on whose perceptual lens is being gazed through and the intention and energy that that person carries. So if they calculate in the shadows and you calculate in the light, we're referencing calculating. When we have people who are in the shadows, they are calculating or utilizing that type of assessment in order to control and manipulate, deceive, and maintain their maintain their presence in the shadows. When people are doing anything, right, from a shadowy place, from the unseen, it is because they fear being seen and observed. Oftentimes, people who calculate and move in the shadows, people who utilize love as a weapon, trust as a weapon, aid as a weapon, there is a shadowy component because the intention isn't pure. They're not simply helping to help. It is normally they are attempting to gain something or enrich themselves in some way or another. So it really boils down to intention, as well as the fear of being seen in their full authenticity, their full light, and in the full presence that they're having on this earth plane, in this earth school. But the current energy and this current transit is all about courage. It's like the heart of a lion. Actually, what I received was the courage of a lion. Leo energy is very fiery. It is the sun. So it is all about what is seen, what is known, and what is shown. And what I really pulled from that message is there are so many of you, I'm talking to you, who have courageously opened up your journey, your experience, your testimony, and shared it as a whole, full mirror, open and transparent. This includes all previous versions of you that you've had to move through, that you've evolved through. I got the visual of someone opening their chest and just depositing the contents of all they are out on the table under this big bright light for all to see. There is such a courageous bravery that is synonymous with sovereignty. And that's another really big aspect of this current transit and the current energy that we're in. It's all about sovereignty, individualism. There's only one of you. So showing up fully and wholly as you are and taking up space in a way that only you can, because you are the only one who owns you, you are who holds you, and you are the only one who contains your specific soul signature and soul essence. This really is a time where we're really tuning into, not so much tuning into who we are, because I feel intuitively that a lot of you out in the collective, you know yourself, you own yourself, you're standing in sovereignty as this whole full mirror and authentically and unapologetically just sharing your energy and your being and your presence. Now, contrary to those who calculate in the shadows, there are also those of us who calculate and share our processes in the light. In my poetic transmission, I talk about blueprints for the sleeping and road maps for the blind. Those of you who have courageously and bravely embodied that Leo heart energy, that fire energy, that sun energy, which is actually being reflected back to us right now on the planet. I don't know if any of you've noticed, but there is an insane amount of wildfires breaking out all over our country right now. Like, wildfires and fires, those are a thing that happen in nature, but the sheer magnitude of the amount of fires that are breaking out I couldn't help but recognize that it so closely mirrors this current transit and where we are at. It is all about that Leo heart energy, that self-embodiment, that exuding, right? Well, when we talk about calculating in the light, there's so many of you who bravely have shared the entirety of your experience, your shadows, your light, your trials, your tribulations, the times when you didn't know, you couldn't know what you know without knowing type thing, the times when you've fallen short, the shadows you've integrated, and the things, the spaces, places, and experiences, both internally and externally, that you've transcended. There's so many of you who are just these open, receptive, transparent beings, boldly and courageously sharing the entirety of your journey and honoring every version of you that you have evolved through, without shame, without guilt, again, unapologetically sharing you, all of you, not hiding, not minimizing, just being open about all the versions of you that you have grown through and flown through to embody you in your highest potential, or the you that was there underneath the wear and the tear of what this human experience places on us throughout our journeys. I look out in the collective and I see so many brave, courageous hearts of lions and lionesses, just unapologetically sharing not just their becoming, but your unbecoming. The things that you have had to deprogram within your mind machine matrix technology in order to really sink into and feel into your heart space and allow that to guide you, because that is the energy, the generator, and the space and the place that has been there since birth. That is your truest essence, your soul essence. The higher self unrealized exists in that heart space energy. And so I feel like this message is really coming through because it so closely connects to this current transit, and what we're being called to do right now intuitively, which is just show up and be. But I feel like it's so under recognized and oftentimes undervalued at just the sheer amount of true courage it takes to be, right? To show up as you are, to share your testimonies, to share your trials, your tribulations, to boldly and unapologetically share all versions of you and all processes that you have grown through to be standing here in your sovereign, authentic wholeness. It is such a courageous act. It's easy to hide. It's easy to calculate in the shadows. It's easy to try to manipulate and change the perceptual lenses of others. It's easy to project, right, those parts of you that, were unawakened and operating in a space and a place of unawareness onto someone else in order to change the perceptual view of another. It's easy to move from a place of fear, but the amount of courage and faith it takes to have faith and to be this open and transparent and receptive being that looks at your past and looks at all of the versions of you that you've evolved through and honors them all and holds them all and reveres them all and loves them all. That is some of the most courageous shit that is one of the most courageous things that you can do, especially now. It is an absolute act of complete and utter sovereignty, courage to just be you, to take up space, to calculate and process in the light, to have the purity of heart and the bravery to share that with others freely, without pause, without a second thought. Just existing in your wholeness is such an act of defiance, but in all the best ways. At this time, where so many people on the planet at a macro level and a micro level are calculating in the shadows so that they can maintain their level of secrecy and shadows and hide and still maintain the illusion of being their self, right? And so I think that main takeaway from that is you are so brave. And also, for those of you who do this, who have done this, who will do this, you are when you do that, when you show up wholly and fully as yourself, and you share yourself, and you speak your truth, and you exude all of you, your shadow, your light, and everything that exists in that liminal space between the two. You are literally gifting a blueprint, a roadmap for others, and you're a walking blueprint. You are giving all of the data points of how you got from A to B, from B to D, from D to Z. And there's so many of us who do this that I'm seeing more and more that we just have this culmination of all of these different paths, all of these different maps and blueprints and routes that are being shared, right, out in the collective for others. There's so many of you who everything you do is in the light because you are not operating from a place of fear. You're operating from a place of faith, and so you have nothing to hide. And so you just are. And that takes true courage. True courage. Moving on. So, okay, I see a side note that I wrote here. It says, existing, arriving as you are, shakes and breaks the avatars. That's really interesting. That actually is going to tie into another message that I will get into in a minute. One of the channel messages I received is just a sentence, and it's very self-explanatory, so I don't think that we'll need to bathe in these waters too deeply. It says, forgiveness does not equate to access. And I feel like that is something that we all know very well. Forgiveness does not equate to access. Speaking from my own experience, there are so many human beings on the planet that I have forgiven wholly and completely, that I will never allow to have access to me, my space, my place, or my child. And I think something to recognize is when you make that type of sovereign decision, and you truly have forgiveness in your heart and have truly extended that, it's important to note that when that happens, when you remove access to certain individuals, it's not about being higher or lower or better or worse. The reality is we're all on different parts of our journeys in our lives. And I truly believe that you can't be early or late to your own becoming, because you're already there. You're exactly where you need to be at any given time, space, and place, in any given now moment. However, sometimes you recognize that where someone else is on their journey and the energy they're operating out of, like that shadow energy I spoke about, their level of connection to self and their level of awareness is detrimental to you, your energy, your life, your essence, your safety. And so, again, you can recognize and honor and radically accept where people are on their journey. It's between them and God. It's between them and Source. It has nothing to do with you. And you can also recognize that you have a responsibility to yourself, what you've cultivated, those that you care for, and your responsibilities to ensure that you're not allowing someone else's shadows to creep into your field and engulf you. And so forgiveness does not mean access. And oftentimes forgiveness, it acts as a closure or an end to a cycle. And not always, but I'm speaking more so towards individuals who based on their behaviors and just where they're at on their journey, are unsafe to have in your experience. Forgiveness can be the key to closing that cycle and moving forward without any residual, those red strings I spoke about in my Poetic transmission. This gives, forgiveness is the way that you tiptoe on those red strings and then eventually cut them completely. Out of love and out of grace and out of respect for where that person or those people are on their journey. Again, that is between them and the Source that they follow. But if it is directly impeding on you and the Source that you follow, it's important that you make that sovereign decision to choose yourself. Moving on. So this one's really interesting. I received a word that is actually 3 words. So I know that sounds really confusing. So the word I received was alter. But the way that it was received, it had 3 meanings. So it was altar, as in like a religious altar, something that you cultivate and you build in order to raise up and worship something. And then I had alter, to change something. And then I had alternative. So all 3 of those words are, for whatever reason, deeply embedded in this message. So I've spoken about this in the past, and I will say it until my face turns blue. Anytime that someone is pedestalize, it is highly harmful. Whether that person is being placed on a pedestal, an altar, to be raised up and worshipped, or whether someone is placing you on a pedestal so that they can reason and ration with themselves through their lens. They're placing you on that pedestal so they can knock you off of it. Both of those things are deeply harmful, because the moment that you raise someone up in your mind's eye, whether it's to knock them down and break them or worship them, they become dehumanized instantly. So if you're raising someone up, if you're pedestalizing someone, putting them on an altar of sorts, then you are akinning them to a deity. They no longer become a human with flesh and a heart and emotions and feelings, and they no longer become real. They become a thought form, a deity, if you're placing someone on an altar to worship them. And I mean people in the physical form, because many of us have had this experience. And then also, in the same breath and in the same vein, if you are placing someone in your mind's eye up on you're pedestalizing them, you're placing them on a pedestal in order to knock them down a peg or knock them on the high horse that you set them on, right? Take them off their pedestal that you, with your mind and your intent and your imagination, place them on, so you can knock them down to give yourself comfort. It's back to that shadow energy, that calculating in the shadows. When people do that, the moment you're pedestalized, whether it's a deity or so someone can knock you down, you, in that person's eyes, the person who is doing the raising up, in whatever form, the moment that happens, you no longer are a person in that person's eyes. And that can be so abusive. That can create so much harm and so much. It can create a lot of evil. I'll just say that. And normally, when people do that, I'm going to go with the latter, the one that most of us have experienced, the being placed on a pedestal so someone can knock you off of it, right? Someone constructing in their mind of you being somehow better than or above them so that they can knock you down. It is one of the most dangerous projections, I think, that exists, because it completely strips you of your sovereignty and your humanity, and you don't get to say, because this person has created this fantasy, this delusion, where you are this thing, this object that they've placed above themselves. Even if the intention is malice, even if the intention is harm, they have placed you up on a pedestal so that they can give themselves the permission to knock you off of it and watch you shatter on the ground. Very, very destructive and very abusive. And I strongly suggest that idol worship and pedestalizing people be something that we become very consciously aware of as a collective humanity, and stop doing, because it is so harmful in so many ways, and it is absolutely abusive. That's what stalkers do. They pedestalize their stalking victim, and then that person that they are pursuing is no longer a person, but they are an object that is to be captured and sought after and put in a silver cage, circling back to that poetic transmission. Very harmful. But the channeled message I received was with this does tie back to my first message about that Leo energy, that sovereignty, and really coming into yourself and showing up as yourself and owning and yourself wholly and fully, and how there's only one of you, one. So whether you are being placed on an altar, essentially to become this deity in someone's delusion, to be worshipped, or you are being pedestalized in order for someone to create an alternative version of you in their, in their mind, create that and then replicate it to others, right? A lot of us have had that experience. There may be many altars of you constructed by the hands of another, but none of those alternative versions of you that have been constructed in someone else's mind's eye hold a candle to you or contain the light that is your life in essence. There is only one of you that is true, ever. And I feel like that message came through because, hey, free will and sovereignty is a thing. People are gonna people. You as a being, me as a being, we don't have any control over what happens in the mind of another. We don't have any control over these alternative yous that are constructed by the hands of another. What you do have control over, however, is owning all of you and showing up as you and exuding that. When it comes to people constructing alternative or altered clones of you, essentially, in thought form, right? These altered versions of you, and selling them to others, let them. Not even a let them. It's not about a let them thing. People are going to do what they're going to do. And a lot of times when people who do that, people who pedestalize people and place them on whatever shelf, altar, whatever, they will take all of their insecurity and their shame and their guilt, and they will project it on this version of you they've constructed in their head, and they will project all of that shadow and all of that darkness out of this thing that they've constructed, that they put your face on and your essence on, not recognizing or realizing that thing is just a extension of them. Their energy, their intention, their beliefs have gone into that alternative version of you that they've constructed with their own hands. You're not there, right? It's them. It's their beliefs about themselves, their insecurities, and their thoughts about themselves that they have projected onto this version of you in their own minds and through their own perceptual lens. And so that's really essentially, I think that I'm bringing this up because that is their creation, right? And people have the right to free will, do what they want. It's important that you stand in your wholeness and in your authenticity and recognize that these alternative versions of you that people have constructed, these versions of you that have been constructed by the hands of another belong to the creator of that. That is essentially they're like quintessential like voodoo doll. And I don't mean that in a physical sense. It's like people can take your likeness and do whatever they want to do with it in their head, right? And they can construct this entire alternative version of you, but it still belongs to whoever constructed it. It has nothing to do with you. It is not connected to you. It is not you. You are the only you that there is. And so, with that being said, this really is the time and the transit to own all of you, to fully show up as you. And allow these alternative versions of you that have been created to stay with their creators. Because I think for many of you, when that happens, when people, and I don't even think that people do this consciously all the time. I think that it can be a subconscious thing that happens. But what those individuals will come to find is they just constructed a mirror. All those shadows and those insecurities, all that guilt, all that shame, all that self-hatred that they deposited into this constructed alternative version of you that they've built in their mind, it only contains their shame, their insecurity, their guilt, their shadows that they need to integrate. And I think that the more that people show up in that transparent and whole, authentic way, the more that these alternative versions of you that have been constructed by hands of others, they will start seeing the paint chip and peel away. The clay will fall away and they will be met with only their face. They will realize and recognize that everything that they deposited, projected at you, they were only doing to themselves in an attempt to maintain a level of comfort and regulation. But and I do, people who are in that space, in that part of their journey, I wish them the best. I send them all the love, and I really hope that they can really connect with their self and connect with God, and that this process, because it's a difficult process, and normally those who get pedestalized have gone through that process, and even at a subconscious level, those who are doing the pedestalizing recognize that subconsciously, like, hey, that person's done something and it's making me feel like I'm lacking because I haven't done that within myself. And the way that the behaviors, the behavioral patterns that come from that are often really destructive. But I think that the core energy underneath that is really a desire of that person wanting to show up as themselves wholly and fully, wanting to integrate, not release. I don't like that word when it comes to shadows. So like when it comes to like shame and guilt and fear and all of those things, I don't really think that those are things that need to be released. I think that those are things that we need to integrate, because when you integrate something, it alchemizes and turns into something else. Like fear turns into faith. Like insecurity turns into unshakable, unwavering self-security. Like shame turns into sovereignty and self-love. These things, I really think that they serve us best when they're faced, when they're felt, when they're wholly held and integrated and seen. Because that, when I use words like shadow and light, shadow is what is unseen. It is what's unrealized. It's what's unrecognized or what's rejected. When I talk about bringing things into the light, that is integration. You can see something, and then if you're brave enough and courageous enough to hold it, and the it is you, those are aspects of you, right? If you can hold all of you, that's where sovereignty, that's where all those things culminate and integrate, and you become whole and full and sovereign. And That really is my wish for people who are still on that point in their journey. Anyways, I've got to go. I'm sending you guys so much love to the universe and beyond. I'm so glad I was able to get this message out without any noise campaign stuff. Yay. I'm sending you guys so much love to the universe and beyond. Bye.